watching CCN Game Changers. I'm Tami DeVine. 9/11 was a game changer. It changed us as a nation. It changed the way we dealt with terrorists, and it changed the life of Kevin Danni forever. He's a local from the San Gabriel Valley area who was working in the World Trade Center when the plane struck the Twin Towers. He survived the ordeal and is here live with us today on CCN Game Changers. Thanks so much for being here, Kevin.
Thank you, Tami. A pleasure to be here.
All right. Let's talk about, let's just go from the very beginning, about that day in the World Trade Center. What must that have been like for you as those planes were hitting the buildings?
Sure. Let me take you back to why I was there. I was training with my company, Morgan Stanley. It was my second day of training. I had started my program on September 10th, and I remember that day was incredible. I was so excited about being in the World Trade Center to embark on this journey. And then, of course, the next day was 9/11. And I remember it was such a beautiful day in New York, and we went down and just I was so excited about my training and about being with my colleagues and starting with my new company that I just remember, you know, being so happy as I was entering that day up into the towers. And we basically started off like we did the day before. We had a speaker who spoke, and he had told us about, you know, we were starting on this program and it was going to be incredible. And then they said, okay, now we're going to dismiss you for a break. And during that break, and this was probably about 8:30 Eastern Time, I decided that I was going to go to the opposite end of my floor. I was on floor 61 of the South Tower to see the views from the other side of the building. And as I got over there, I looked out the window and I saw what I thought was confetti. And I thought, this is strange. Are they having a parade or some sort of function? And I didn't realize, but they were documents that had been blown out of the North Tower when the first plane hit.
Wow.
And so I looked up, I looked at the other tower, and there were flames just pouring out of the tower. So I knew something was terribly wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I had to go back to my area and warn everybody that something had happened. Well, when I got back to my lobby on floor 61, they called us all together and said, let's evacuate. We didn't know what it was.
Why? They didn't say why.
They didn't say why, but luckily one of our managers was in the building in '93 when the truck bombing happened.
Oh, wow.
And our firm made the call that let's get out. Let's not wait around. Let's just, if there's something at the other tower or if anything here, let's get out. So we made that decision. We all got in the stairwell and we started to evacuate. And it was very orderly. And then I got down to floor 55. And that's when the Port Authority came on the loudspeaker and said, an unidentified plane has hit Tower 1. Tower 2 is secure. Remain calm. Do not panic. And so we sat there. We didn't know what had happened. And later on the news, you heard people say they told us to go back to our offices.
Wow. Wow.
Well, they didn't really say go back to your offices. They just said remain calm. Do not panic. And people interpreted that to be let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, literally 20 seconds later, the second plane slammed into our tower as I was on 55, and the plane hit around 78.
And you felt that impact?
I did. It was a violent collision. The walls cracked. People actually got thrown to the floor.
Wow.
It was such a jolt, and we knew that we were under attack at that point. And then it started the descent down the stairs.
Yeah. And you say that you said that on your way down, you saw the firefighters coming up.
Yes.
What was the interaction?
The firefighters were incredible. I remember the first few with their just strong New York accents, you know, you're going to make it, let's go, let's go. And they were just so positive. And no one ever could have imagined what was about to happen. But they, because of their unselfishness, their ability to get up there, rescue so many people, my entire training class got out. We all survived. And unfortunately, all of those firefighters that I passed could not have made it out of the tower because our tower was hit second. It was the second plane to hit us, but we were the first to fall because that plane came in lower and there was more weight and it brought the building down, and it was 57 minutes from impact to collapse.
Okay, so how long did it take to get down the steps, and what's going through your mind as you're going?
Great question. It took about 45 minutes, and the stairwells were very big. There was about, I remember, there was about 2 or 3 people on each side of me as we were going down, and there were those metal stairs, and so you would just hear footprints or footsteps, boom, boom, boom.
Wow.
And it was almost like there was an eerie silence. All you could hear is the footsteps and the pounding, and everybody was just in shock about what was happening. And luckily for the firefighters, they just kept reassuring us, you're going to make it, you're going to make it. And remember, each floor, as we got lower into that tower, the doors would open up and more people would shuffle in. And the one thing I'll always remember about my 9/11 experience, everybody helped each other that day. They reached out a hand, they grabbed somebody, put their arm around their shoulder and said, let's go, you're going to make it. Because there were elderly people, there were people that were struggling, and everybody put out a hand and helped. I didn't see anybody trample or run or push anybody out of the way. And so I'll always remember that people rallied. And I was just so impressed, and it was that ability that helped save so many people that day.
You see that happen a lot in disasters. Just Americans just really come together and work together and help each other out.
That's right.
And that makes us all so proud. What was it like for you when you stepped outdoors and you knew? I mean, did you know you were safe, or was it still nerve-wracking?
I was in shock. I mean, I think that's a good word, because I got into New York on Saturday night, late, and I remember Sunday, this was September 9th, I toured the city. And I actually got in the subway and went down to the World Trade Center. And I'll never forget my first look at the towers as I came up that subway entrance to the World Trade Center into the courtyard. And I looked up and I saw those massive towers. And what was so eerie for me is that Tuesday morning, 9/11, as I exited the building after they had been hit, I was in almost the same exact spot that I was on Sunday. And I'm now looking up and the towers are on fire. Oh. And I just thought, how could this be happening? Here I am for training. I was so excited, and then this horrible tragedy was happening. Now, nobody knew, or I didn't feel like those towers were going to come down as quickly as they did. But at that time, I felt like I had to call my family, because they knew I was there. My mom, who still lives in the Pasadena area, my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, I felt this sense of reassuring them that I was okay. And unfortunately, I got about 10 blocks away, and I heard this thundering noise, and I looked back, and the tower that I was in collapsed, and that dust cloud was coming towards us, and I just ran. And I had played football in college, and I don't think I've ever run as fast as I did that day, because we just did not know what was going to happen. But yet, I'll always remember the countless people that helped me, because I didn't know where I was going. I could have been going the wrong direction, and people pointed me in the right way, and I was finally able to find a payphone and was able to connect with my family. Unfortunately, it was after the second building had collapsed, so they, of course, thought the worst, that I was gone. But
wow. Oh, what a relief it must have been to have heard your voice.
Absolutely. It was an incredible phone call, and a lot of my family had gone to my mother's house because they wanted to comfort her, and they thought the worst. And to hear the cheers on the other end of the phone was a moment that I'll never forget.
I can't even imagine. So what happened after that? I mean, you see the towers come down, you're running as fast as you can. When did you know that there was a name attached to this horrible, horrible incident, Osama Bin Laden?
What's so interesting is when I got out of the tower, there were a lot of these theories that had already started to percolate through the city about so-and-so. I remember somebody saying Saddam Hussein has attacked us, and then shortly after that, Osama Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and all this information was just flowing throughout the city, and it was strange. And I think all of us wanted to watch the news and hear the reports about who did this to us, what happened, were they 2 commercial planes, was this a terrorist act? And so there was so many questions that were going on within the city. And Finally, when those buildings came down, it was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable, and we need to figure out who did this to us. And then, of course, as the days followed, we found out it was Osama Bin Laden, and you know, all of us wanted to bring him to justice, I think, and yesterday we did.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about yesterday, and then I'll probably backtrack. Please excuse me as I jump around here.
No problem.
But it's just fascinating hearing you talk about it all. What was that like for you to hear that the man that had brought down the towers, that was the mastermind behind those attacks, was dead?
It was an incredible moment for me, and years have passed. I mean, we're approaching the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, and part of me always held out hope that we would find him. But as the years went on, as a lot of us, lost a little bit of hope that maybe we wouldn't find him. And I remember when I heard the news, we were out to dinner in Pasadena with my family, and I just hugged my kids. I've got a 2.5-year-old son, Luke, and a 5-month-old Molly, and I just wanted to be with my kids, and I just always think that, gosh, if I didn't get out of that tower, I wouldn't have these 2 beautiful kids. Wow. And my wife, Elena, we just celebrated our 6-year wedding anniversary, and I gave her a big hug, and I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace almost. And so went back home. We turned the TV on right away and heard our president come out, and I certainly have to commend President Obama for a job well done here, and our incredible armed forces for really hitting a home run on this. I mean, they waited, they did the right intelligence, and finally we got Osama Bin Laden. And it will never give full closure to those who lost loved ones and to our nation as a whole, but we all, I think, slept a little bit easier last night but he was finally brought to justice.
Yeah.